Batman Off-World issue 1. This is Jason Aaron and Doug Mankey. I wasn't sure where to put this, but I thought it's a number 1 from Jason Aaron. Should probably open the show with it and dive into it, because I didn't make a point of looking into what this was too much. I'm sure we read the solicit text back when it first got put out, but I think surprise number 1 for this, and this isn't apparent at the start of the book, this is something that comes in a bit later when you get like a flashback to when he was still on Earth, is that this is only a year after he became Batman. That surprised me. I didn't realize this was going to be like sort of early days Batman story, so that's interesting. I think this book looks nice. I think it's very well told. I think there's a couple of badass kind of inner monologue moments for Batman that I really like. I will say that conceptually, the idea that Batman realized that there was going to be alien threats and he hadn't trained against alien threats, so he threw himself into the furthest reaches of the universe to take on new alien threats with no like hope of getting home or translation, just so he could train to be a better Batman. Little far-fetched for me, but okay.
I mean, I could understand if there was a thing that like, not because Batman's not really powered by revenge, but there's some type of threat to Gotham that had come in, so he goes to investigate it, and that's how he ends up in space. Not because trading, you know.
I was
did
hoping
not have that on my bingo card.
Yeah, because they do the flashback where it kind of implies when he first encounters an alien from this region of the universe that this is why he's out here. He's out here to train so he can take on threats like this. But the way the flashback ended, I thought, oh no, it feels like there's more to the story. Like he's commenting that he's not ready for this threat because he's not trained against it. But the narration later on heavily implied that that's just straight out that he made the choice to come out here just to train against threats that he's not fought before. And the fact that it's also like early days Batman, probably before the Justice League exists, before he knows Superman, it just feels a bit weird that he would go this.
It's crazy to me that he's meeting a Tamaranian before he meets a Kryptonian.
Yeah,
right?
that's
just in
nuts.
my head.
That's very nuts. That said, though, like that one conceptual issue put aside, I do think this is a strong written and told book. It's like I think the way it starts off with like you have like these aliens that are wearing suits, so you can't see how different they look. You just assume they're human, effectively. And they're saying, oh, there's some sort of alien ships like docked with ours, and they're going into it. It's kind of like the start Aliens when they get into the pod where Ripley's sleeping, and it's very mysterious. And then you see their faces, and they've got these weird alien mouths and big sharp teeth and all that. And the joke here is that no, Batman's the alien. He's this unknown entity that these beings have never seen anything like before. So when they start seeing glimpses of them, they're like, oh, he's got wings, but he seems to be flightless.
And he can produce a vapor, like a gas.
Yeah, smoke bombs.
and which was very fun, because Jason Aaron's really good at this type of storytelling where he can take something familiar and make it seem unfamiliar. Like he did that a lot in Thor and in the Avengers when I was reading those. And then even in a lot of his independent works, he'll take the familiar and make it seem alien. So here, where he's taking the alien and making it seem familiar in parts, I really like, right? Because when he starts talking about the captain, that that's any number of type of person on Earth, that Batman knows how to deal with. It's just physiologically he can't yet because he doesn't know the weaknesses and whatnot.
Yeah, and they send in more men, they send in robots to help fight him. Batman decapitates a robot with a chainsaw, which is a visual. I'll give it that.
Sure, yeah, and Doug Mankey back on his, I would call this his Green Lantern stuff, right? Because
I can see why you say that. Yeah,
he's doing the alien stuff. He's doing these big, cool, like hero moments, like Batman with that electric chainsaw, and it just looks super rad.
Yeah, and honestly, like I think Aaron's got a better handle of the voice than say Zdarsky does, because there's a moment here when the aliens are coming in and Batman's trying to use his normal tactics, and he basically says in his narration, they don't know who I am. They don't even know what a bat is. They don't know how to feel the Batman. And then there's just one little narration box saying, not yet. That's like, okay, that was a bad, like, sometimes I think writers always try to make Batman sound badass, and I think a lot fail, and it comes off a bit try hard. That simplicity of just, not yet, like, they will learn to fear me is pretty cool.
It goes to what like Nolan did in those first movies, where I remember watching a behind the scenes feature, and they wanted Batman's fighting style to be like not robotic but simple, right? Why do a jump spin kick when just a regular roundhouse will do? And I feel that's what Aaron gets with Batman's voice is like there's no reason to have these big long monologues when he can just add a not yet.
It's efficiency, yeah. It's direct and to the point. He's not someone to be unless unless it's the theatrics to scare people, which is again which is embellishing things. By and large, he's a very to the point character. He doesn't have time for small talk. He wants to beat the bad guys. So yeah, he's locked up. He gets knocked out by the aliens. He wakes up as a Tamaranian there. Do we get a name for her?
It's Ione.
Ione.
Or Ione. Yep.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm gonna remember the Tamaranian's name.
Of course you do.
It's one of my brands.
And she's got like sort of a bit of a harsher look than Starfire. She's got sort of face paint.
Orange. She's Orange Gamora, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, she kind of is actually.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, Orange Gamora with even brighter orange hair. I think it's fair to say.
And she's with Snor. So this whole little group that they're in, right? So, with these I guess they're pirates or they're like slavers, right? As they go and they find.
They mentioned so they're traveling in this big ship which has an artificial like galactic storm that's around it, and they basically steal people and enslave them to do their bidding. And if they don't think you're going to be particularly useful, they'll give you the jobs that will just end in your death. Like I think one of them's like clearing debris from the jets or whatever it is.
Yeah, doing that or menial cleaning, that type of stuff.
Yeah, so we see Batman with a mop at one point in this this comic, which is an interesting.
What I want to talk about with her is she's what's known as a storm chaser, and it says that like she goes and retrieves people that escape. I feel like she's not a lot more shades of gray than I think we're gonna see, because I don't see Aaron setting that up without her having to go retrieve Batman at some point.
Oh, for sure. Like she's been set up as the second main character of this book, so she's interesting. I like her though so far. She's interesting. I will say that they do a bit of a quick explanation, because I was thinking about this during the whole opening segment where they're coming onto the ship and looking for Batman, and he's trying to do his usual stealth stuff, and it ends with him getting knocked out, and that's the first third or so of the book. I was thinking that all these aliens are talking to each other, and we get this main alien with the horns who's like the main bad guy on the ship, and he's like calling the shots, and he's the one that comes in and knocks out Batman. They're all talking to each other, and Batman's just narrating to himself, and I was thinking, are they all speaking an alien language? Obviously it's been translated for us, the reader, but are they all speaking a different language? And when Batman wakes up and he can understand the Tamaranian, he actually questions, like, why can I understand you? So they have a quick sci-fi explanation, is that they've implanted him with like a translator chip so that all the slaves could communicate. Which I guess makes some sense, because if they're stealing people off different worlds constantly, they all need to be able to communicate. So I guess they had a solution, and now we don't have to question it. It's just... Well,
they at least need to be able to communicate with him, right? To tell him what he has to do. So, but I do like when he goes, "You speak English?" She goes, "Never heard of it." There's some character to her. But and it wasn't fumbly like sometimes when you get that kind of explanation, you kind of stumble on it, or maybe we're just used to Zdarsky at this point, right? Kind of tripping over.
Look, I'm just going to say, Jason Aaron is typically a better writer than Zdarsky. Well, at least with Batman, anyway.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah.
Yeah. So there's a little moment here where she's Ione, sorry, is trying to deduce why Batman's here, that it must be for love. Like, he came here intentionally. She deduces that and says, you didn't just end up here. You came looking for this. And the question is why. It must be for love. Like, so what's their name if you went to all this trouble? And I kind of liked it in the moment as she's saying that. I was thinking, you know what, she's thinking it's a romance, and all I could think was, this is about the city. This is about the love of, like, Gotham itself. This isn't about Selina. Because I think that's what you might be tricked into thinking. Oh, is it Selina he's here for some reason? No. He's here because his one true love, Gotham City, is in trouble. So we get, like, a flashback to when it looks like the main dude that's on the ship, the leader with the horns that shows up. Maybe it's just the same species, I would presume. But some gangster in Gotham has one of these alien dudes show up, and Batman is perturbed, to say the least, that he doesn't know how to fight this thing because he doesn't know his physiology and whatnot. There's a running gag in the book. We go back to the future, or the present day timeline, if you will, and there's a running gag even before this point where there's these like test robots that are designed just to like practice fighting. And the sort of running gag is that the robot, no matter what, will always say things like, "That was a great punch, sir. You may punch me some more if you like." And there's a few funny moments where it seems like the robot's just begging to be hit because that's its purpose. And Batman, takes off like part of his outfit. He's doing the whole topless with a cowl on, kind of fighting Ra's al Ghul look.
Yep.
And he says to the robot, "Look, I need to learn how to fight all these bastards. So I want you to fight me like they would fight." And the robot's like, "You mean Punchbot can punch back?" He's like, "Yes, fight me like all these different aliens. Like, let's start with this main race, and then we'll go through every species on this ship." And the robot's like, "This will cause you immense physical pain." He's like, "I know, do it." So, yeah, I mean, I enjoy the storytelling here, and then the ending is him getting the shit kicked out of him by the robot, and him just saying, "I'm not, I'm not one of them. I'm not anywhere close. Not yet." So it ends with that "not yet" again. So it brings it back around. So I think it's a really well told comic. I think it looks really great. I think it's interesting that this is coming out while Superman Lost is still going on, because it was hard not to compare them a little bit.
Yeah.
And
that's where you were talking about the sci-fi in this versus the sci-fi in that, where one of my big problems with Superman Lost was it was like that writer, I'm drawing a blank on right now, it was a Priest? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Priest was almost like he had read a physics book and was trying to, throw Superman into it. This came off as the kind of sci-fi that is more pop culture-y and, easily, much more easily accessible, so yeah. Yeah,
I think this dishes the information out in a way that's fun. And even though Batman getting into space and being around none of his supporting cast and only being with aliens isn't typically what I'd say I want from a Batman book. One, it helps that there's like 4 other Batman books going on that are all doing Batman-y things, so it's not a big deal. But I think, too, the way it's written draws me in and has already given me a villain. It's already given me a character who might be an antagonist or an ally, depending on how Ione goes in the plot. It's already given me these things, and it had some humor with the punch bot. It's given me enough context and enough grounding that I'm like, okay, I'm actually kind of interested in the story. Even if conceptually there's one or two, I was like, okay, Batman shooting himself into space to do this is a bit just kind of nonsense. It's not because Batman, but it's kind of in the same sort of flavor as because Batman.
Yeah. He did spend $532 million to do this.
Yes. Which I guess I have to ask again, how rich is Bruce exactly? Because I know he's a billionaire, but that's a lot of money even to a billionaire.
Yeah, I mean that's $500 million, like right there. So
how many billions does he have? This is important. I don't know. Anyway, not bad though. I think Mankey's art's very good. He's got the heavy inks that I associate with Mankey. I think all the alien species look really cool. I love how bright and colorful everything in space is. Even the Tamaranian obviously is all these bright oranges and even some purple sort of mixed
Purples,
in.
greens,
there's a lot of green. Even the big 2-page spread of the ship coming through the storm. Again, it's a lot of pinks, greens, purples, all that sort of stuff. And then the flashback in Gotham looks more like a typical Batman book. It looks more like your typical blues and stuff of that. Very distinct, very natural looking in comparison. And I think that distinction goes a long way in the art, just to give it a really cool vibe. So this is by far not the first thing I would have said I wanted from a Batman book or even a Jason Aaron Batman book, although I can see kind of how you can compare this to his Thor a little bit by saying, no, it's intergalactic. It's just not the first character you'd expect to take on this journey. But, I mean, so far, the rating of Batman's inner monologue is on point in a way that I really don't like about Zdarsky, whereas here it feels like it's right. Despite the ridiculous circumstance he's in, he sounds right.
Right.
So,
which that's kind of the trick as the writer, right? Is to make you be like, is that going to work? And then he makes it work.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, it definitely makes me, I'm a lot more hopeful about his Superman, right? Because sometimes I think Batman, for all this talk of all writers want to work on Batman and stuff, sometimes I think it's a lot more of a hassle to get Batman right, almost than Superman. So knowing how he did this, I'm a lot more eager to read his Action Comic stuff that's coming out next year.
Yeah, I am curious because he's doing this, which is very much like its own little corner of a book. Arguably even out of continuity, depending. Maybe they'll say it's in continuity by the end. Some sort of thing in present day, I don't know. But he's doing this. I know he's doing 3 issues of Action, but it is just like a 3-issue thing. I do wonder if these DC projects are going to lead to Jason Aaron being on an ongoing, like a big ongoing book properly. By the time we get to the end of 2024. I'm kind of expecting it just based on these 2 projects that he's on. I don't know which book it would be, but
I mean, those are both pretty high profile, right? Between Action and a Batman mini.
Yeah.
You know, so
it wouldn't surprise me if he ends up replacing Zarsky, and maybe I'm kind of hoping that. I don't know.
Yeah, that's that. Speaking out, because normally I would say, because him, after reading his story, I always wanted to know what he would do Superman, but now reading this, I'd love to read a Green Lantern Corps book. From Aaron, to see what kind of fun space shenanigans we can get into. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be Hal or John. I mean, we have a whole Corps to work with, right? I almost wish it could kind of go back to not an anthology, but, you know, Tales of the Green Lantern Corps.
Well, it wouldn't even have to replace either of the 2 books that are out just now. It could just be a third Green Lantern book, which I don't know if the market's there to support that necessarily, but it's there's nothing in saying that you can't do that.
Yeah, but yeah, it's very, very surprised by this. So I put this off for as long as I could this week, and was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I think I was putting it off as well because I think conceptually I just wasn't that into it. But yeah, but hey, that ended up being quite good. So I guess we're ready to rate Batman Off-World issue 1. What are you giving it, Matt?
I'll give it a solid 7.5.
Yeah, I think it just about gets to the 8. Like conceptually, I've got some misgivings, but it was well told. It looked great. I'm down to see what the rest of the story is, and it's kind of a little bit Superman lost for Batman. It's also a little bit a Warworld saga for Batman as well in a way, you know, and that they're all enslaved, and he's going to go up against the Mongol, if you will, of the ship. So I'm curious to see how that goes.